Hey guys, Josh here. Doing a double whammy of sorts. Two kind of scoops today, somewhat. So a few days ago, I stumbled upon the original script for Spider-Man 3. Obviously, it was much different than the final product, and me and CJ were going to report on it. But by the time we were going to report on it, like 2-3 days later, as we found it, it got taken down, or deleted, erased, which really sucked. So I decided instead I'll talk about the original script for Amazing Spider-Man 2. Which, there's a few interesting changes, tonal changes and actual like scene changes and character changes in that those type of things going on. So I won't cover every aspect of the original script because a lot of it obviously is kept into the final product that was shown in the movie. I'm just going to talk about things that weren't in the final script or things they changed. So I'm going to go straight into it. First off, Mary Jane. We knew she was going to be in the film until she was taken out the last minute. In the script, very similar to how the Raimi films did it. She's the girl next door, which she is in most of them. Her aunt is either living next door to Peter Parker and her family, or she's living next door to Peter Parker and her family, and his family. So she is the girl next door, and she lives with her abusive father. Very similar to how it was shown in the Raimi films. Her father is a drunk, abusive father, just like what would have been shown in this movie if she was included. One thing interesting about her, though, is that her hobby is working on motorcycles and cars, which is pretty interesting. And I guess I know she has a few scenes with Gwen Stacy where they talk about Peter Parker, guys like Peter Parker, because Mary Jane wants to find a good guy, obviously not someone like her father. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Her scenes with Peter Parker, though, are very limited, which kind of, I guess, makes sense because they don't want to detract too much from Gwen Stacy. And then after that, we get a lot more character development on Electro. I was actually really surprised. This script, I'm surprised they took that stuff out, because one thing that I was really confused about is they didn't really go into why Electro is how he is, character-wise, especially before he becomes Electro. So in the original script, Max Dillon, who's Electro, he has some, not necessarily attachment issues, but emotionally he's very distant. Or not distant from people, but his mother, he lives with his mother, who's crippled. And he tries, getting his mother's support, mother's affection, but his mother just kind of shuns him off. Which is why when Spider-Man pays attention to him and shows some sort of care towards him, he immediately latches on to Spider-Man because that's what he's been trying to get from his mother. So it's a very unhealthy relationship there. Some signs of mental and emotional instability obviously present, which would have been nice to get more of, at least development-wise, in the final product, because in the final movie, it's just kind of like he's just obsessive for no reason, in a sense. But this definitely gives some motive to why he is how he is. And he kind of goes over the edge even more because when everyone thinks he's dead, or at least Oscorp thinks he's dead, Oscorp pays off his mother to keep quiet about him, as if he never existed. And when he finds that out, that's what kind of sets him off to go to Times Square, and that sets off the whole, what ends up making him a villain, basically. So I thought they should have kept this. I thought it was definitely much more, not character building, but it gave more development to Max Dillon and why he is how he is. So after that, we were supposed to get a brief scene, I guess, in the original script with the Daily Bugle. Peter, gives the pictures to J. Jonah Jameson. J. Jonah Jameson, even though he's J. Jonah Jameson, he's somewhat impressed by Peter Parker, because he's, a teenager and, he's getting these photos, obviously he can do it because he's Spider-Man. So I guess they kind of hint towards him maybe getting an internship there, and future-wise working at Daily Bugle, which would be pretty cool. Later, also a big change is the fact that Harry Osborn gets Spider-Man's blood voluntarily from Peter. Peter does give it to him to try saving his life. Obviously, it still turns him into the Green Goblin, and the Green Goblin suit was actually made by Norman Osborn in the original script to help him stay alive and help him mobility wise, because obviously he's kind of bound to his bed as we saw in the movie. So Harry, after he becomes the Goblin, takes that suit, and it's not a military suit, it's a privately made suit just for Norman. So he takes that, and that's what he uses to be the Green Goblin. So I think that would actually be not better. I did like that Peter didn't give him his blood, but I think the whole like it not being a military suit makes more sense, because not everything needs to be military if it's advanced, especially if you're a billionaire. Also, the guy that tortures Electro during the movie at the Ravencroft Institute, just like in the comics, was originally supposed to be a female. And more so, when Electro breaks out, he tries killing Harry Osborn to get revenge on Oscorp, because Norman's believed to be dead at this point. Later on, he does find out, not later on, but when he tries killing Harry, that's when him and Harry kind of decide to team up, because Harry kind of reveals, I've been fucked over by Oscorp too, excuse my French. So that happens. Also, Norman Osborn's revealed to not be actually dead in the original script. At least they don't flat out say it, but they strongly hint that he's not actually dead. Also, when Gwen dies, it's not a few months, it's actually a whole year that passes. And, Peter's struggling because he has to start college soon, and he's basically this whole 1 year has just been him struggling and trying to cope with Gwen's death and things like that. They don't go too much into it, but there is some sort of there's a scene, I guess, where they talk about the fact that Gwen is obviously not going to Oxford, and there's a few stuff about that. It doesn't go too deep into it. Or at least I'm not going to go too deep into it, because I don't feel like picking out way too much stuff that obviously didn't even end up being in the movie. The Indian guy, Dr. Rafta, from the first Spider-Man movie, he actually comes back in this one, in the original script. He is actually the one responsible for kicking Harry Osborn out of running Oscorp in the second movie, because he's working for Norman Osborn. So that obviously was taken out. He's not even in the movie, I believe, which... I think that it would have been really nice to see him come back, because it would have been a nice way to connect the first movie with the second movie, especially because we really didn't get any closure with him in the first movie. By the way, the little kid that dressed up as Spider-Man at the end, and also that Spider-Man saves, he wasn't supposed to be in the movie. That was just thrown in there later on. The death of Gwen Stacy obviously was in there, but it was changed in the original script. It was a slow death. She falls and everything, but she's able to stay alive long enough to give some final words to Peter, which is essentially, to sum it up, don't give up being Spider-Man, keep doing what you're doing. And when Peter does quit being Spider-Man, it hurts him even more, because he feels like he's not respecting her dying wish and all this stuff, and he's conflicting that with, Captain Stacy's death. So I'm happy they didn't do that, because I felt like it was better for it to be such an abrupt death, where he didn't really get closure with her. She was dead. She was gone. So I do like the final version of that better. And obviously, we did see this off of the deleted scene. Richard Parker, his father, was originally supposed to come at the end when he's mourning at the grave to convince him to become Spider-Man once again. And his father is the one who gives him the "with great power comes great responsibility" speech. So that's it. I like some of the things tonal-wise. It was much more serious and darker, reminiscent to the first movie. It wasn't so lighthearted. There were jokes in there, but it stayed serious. I'd say probably it felt like 70-80% of the time. But yeah, go watch Amazing Spider-Man 2. Tell me below how you felt about the movie. Did you like the movie? If you didn't like the movie, tell me why. If you did like the movie, tell me why. And yeah, I'll see you guys later.